It's recording, so go ahead.
Oh, I see it. Good. Happy Thursday, right? So good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Honka, and I have a company called Your Key to Senior Living Options. All through this pandemic, we've been meeting with experts on different mental health topics. And today we are so excited to be joined by my best friend, Maureen Campaiola, all the way from up north in New Hampshire. So thank you so much for joining us, Maureen. I know you have a lot to share with us about goal setting for 2021. This has been a crazy year so far, and it's nice to kind of think forward about what are our plans, what kind of things can we look forward to, maybe changes that we can make. So I'm so excited to hear about what you have to share with us today, and hopefully we're going to have some big takeaways that maybe give us some better peace and also some things to look forward to. So again, I'm Lisa Honka, and I have a company here in Florida called Your Key to Senior Living Options. I help seniors find resources in the area, especially independent, assisted, or memory care communities. My services are completely free, and I am here to answer any questions about senior living or aging in place, and my phone number and contact information are in front of you. So without further ado, let's get to some of our upcoming topics that we're going to be coming up with this year. So on December 17th, we're going to be working with TLC, getting through the holidays. We also are going to be having some virtual caregiving support groups coming in 2021. We're also doing a Savvy Caregiver training. So those people, this is a free program called Savvy Caregiving Training, and it's actually an 8-week session, and it's a limited invitation only, but it is free, and you have to be certified.
Okay, Lisa's having some problems with her stuff, so I will kind of go over the.
Yeah,
You
I
all
think I'm
set,
back.
Lisa? Yeah.
I think
okay.
I'm back. Am I back?
You're
Yep,
back.
sorry about that. Little technical difficulties, too much on here, I guess. And then we're going to be having a special series with Teepa Snow, world-renowned dementia expert. And again, these programs are free. This one will not be able to be shared, so you will have to be on this Zoom call on January 28th if you're interested, or February 25th. If you're interested, you need to pre-register, get the link for that. All the information of these upcoming programs are on my website, Your Key to Senior Living Options. Be sure to register. We also, we have all the past events that we've been doing with local experts on the website as well. So now we're going to be getting our goal setting for 2021 with Maureen Campaiola. Take it away, Maureen. We're looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Hello, people. Hello, everybody. It's nice to be here. I'm actually here every single week, but most of the time you don't see me because I am behind a black screen. And so let me just tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm doing this presentation today. So my name is Maureen Campaiola. I live in New Hampshire, where it's very cold and we already have snow on the ground. And I have done a multitude of different things in my life. And one of the things that I did was I became a certified coach many years ago. And so when I became a coach, I focused a lot on goal setting with my clients. And I've used all sorts of different techniques and tried different ways for goal setting. And I finally landed on a goal setting technique that really works well for myself, and it works well for just about anybody that I share it with. And so today I'm going to share with you basically how I go about goal setting so that you can have the best 2021 that you've ever had. And we're all at the point with this pandemic and with 2020, I'm sure most of us just can't wait to just say goodbye to 2020 in the hopes that 2021 is going to be better. But the way in which our lives become better, really, I believe, is by really reflecting and taking some time to think about what's important for you in your life. And when we can take control of that, we tend to be happier. And so I'm going to just kind of jump right in, and I'm going to let you know the 10 different ways. Well, I think it's 10. I think I have 10 slides that go through the different process that I use to help you have better goals for 2021. So what I want to tell you first, before we get into the first goal, how I goal set every year. And so right around this time of year, as I'm thinking about the next year, I sit down and I kind of do a brain dump. I think to myself, what are all the things that I would love to achieve coming up in the following year? And so I'll just do this big, huge brain jump where I'll write down a whole bunch of different ideas. And then I take a step back and I actually push it aside for maybe a day, maybe 2 days. And I kind of just think about the things that I wrote on my plan, on my brain dump. And then I go back to it and I really hone in on what are the things that I value most on this list that I want to accomplish. And then I begin to kind of whittle it down a little bit. And I suggest this for a variety of reasons, but a lot of us have this idea that we should just attack everything all at once. And that doesn't typically work for most of us. The reality is that setting goals and achieving goals are two very, very different things. And most of us are much better at setting goals than we are at actually achieving them, unfortunately, right? So we love to dream about all the things that we want to accomplish, and we'll make that list, but then something falls short somewhere in between. But I believe that right now more than ever, because 2020 has been so just hellacious, right now more than ever, setting up goals for yourself as we move into 2021 is going to help you stay motivated. It's going to help you stay productive, and it's going to help you stay on task, which are all really essential. So how do we set goals for ourselves? The reality is that we need a really good plan. And that's what I want to share with you today. My Achieve Goal System. And what it does is it helps you to kind of breathe life into the goals that you have for yourself. And it's not just about making a list and checking things off. It's really about developing a plan of action that you can follow through with, and a plan that you've designed that is really based on what you value most. And so just so you know that when you get the link, hopefully today, tomorrow, maybe over the weekend, when you get the link, the replay link to this presentation, there's also going to be a link for you to download my goal setting worksheet, the one that I use. So you'll get that in your email. So what's the first thing that we want to do? Okay, so my goal system is called Achieve. So it's a little acronym and it's really easy to remember. And the first is A, which is to ascertain. Okay, so now the best thing that the first thing you have to do is you have to figure out what are my goals. And so after you've done that brain dump that I talked about, what I like to do is I like to take that and I like to break it up into two different categories. I like to look at what are my personal goals, what are my financial goals, what health goals might I have? If you have a business, what business goals do you want to tackle? What fun and recreation goals do you have for yourself? What people do you want to connect with in 2021? So I kind of categorize all of the goals, and then I look at long-term goals and short-term goals, and I decide which is really the overarching goal for something. So for instance, let's take health. Maybe you want to improve your overall health. Now that's a great goal for 2021, but there's probably lots of other things that are going to fall underneath that particular goal that you'll work on month to month. The second thing that I want you to think about is that oftentimes people will come up with a small goal. They'll come up with this tiny little goal for themselves and they'll think that's a good goal. And I want to challenge you that when you think about your goals for 2021, that you think really big. Because research has shown that when we think small, then we only attain something very small. But when we think big, even if we don't actually ever reach the goal in the time frame that we've set, we typically surpass whatever smaller goal we would have established from the get-go. So I want to challenge you to really think big over little. You know, shooting low might be, I want you to think about that. Why are you thinking low, right? If you're choosing a really, really small goal, why are you thinking in those small terms? Could it be that you have maybe a limiting belief that's standing your way? You know, you may think, well, you might be, maybe your health goal is to lose weight. And then you might think, well, you know, oh, I'm postmenopausal, and postmenopausal women never lose weight, and oh, I can't do this, and you know, my body aches, so I can't exercise. And those are all limiting beliefs, right? So you might want to be thinking about what those beliefs and those limiting beliefs might be that are standing in your way of creating and crafting a really big goal that you can actually make progress on. So aim high and don't let fear stand in your way. Okay. I just got to check my notes. I have like six different things going on here. So I got like all these different moving parts I have to maintain here. I have to manage today. The other thing before we move on to the next thing that I want to say about goals is that you really only want to tackle, you don't want, if you end up with a list of 25 things you want to accomplish, some of those things are really going to be more objectives that meet an overall arching goal. Like, let's go back to the health, right? You want to improve your health. There's a million things that could go on underneath that improving health. It could be losing weight. It could be exercising more. It could be reducing your cholesterol. It could be managing your, you know, your diabetes better. It could be a bunch of different things, right? You don't typically want to be tackling 25 different goals. You want to have, you know, maybe 3 goals that you're working on at one given time, because otherwise you're going to get completely overwhelmed by the thought of having to achieve all this stuff all at once. So keep that in mind. The next thing that we're going to talk about is the C in achieve, which is creating your objectives. And basically what this becomes the measure of your success. And so you break it down into smaller goals or objectives, whichever term you like is fine. On the worksheet, I'm pretty sure I call them objectives, but these are the measures of success. These are the pieces of the overall goal that you're breaking down into steps, into these different objectives and things that you're aiming for. So say you have a goal to run the Boston Marathon. That's certainly not my goal, but if you have this goal to run the Boston Marathon, what does that actually mean? Okay, it might mean that you need to run a 10K first. It might mean that you want to eat super healthy. It might mean that you want to get your BMI under 25, right? So by taking that bigger goal and breaking it down into these different objectives, right? You're honing in on it and you're making it real. You're making that goal real because you can see the objectives that need to occur in order for you to actually, you know, make your goal and reach it. Okay, the next, where's my cursor? The next one is H for how motivating is it? So this is where we talk about the why. What is your bigger why? And your why is really about your values, what you value. And I want to tell you a story about a woman that I used to work with a long time ago. She was one of my coaching clients, and she had this big job and she traveled all the time. She was basically gone from, you know, Monday morning, and she would come back home on Friday night. And she had a couple of kids and a husband, and the husband was the guy that stayed home and kind of managed the house. He worked, but he managed the kids, and it was kind of like a flipped relationship a little bit. Not the traditional relationship, working relationship that most of us are familiar with, I should say. And she was very, very unhappy. And through our work together, we started working on her values. And it became very clear when we did this exercise together that she really valued family and home life. And it was what was causing her so much distress, was that she had this job that was completely went against what she valued. And so she created some goals around fixing that. And one of the goals that she created was to find another job where she didn't have to get on a plane every Monday morning and fly around the country and not see her family and see her children. And eventually she did that. She was able to find a new job. They decided to downsize so that they could make some different decisions. And she finally achieved what she really wanted, which was to be with her family and to have that home life that she really valued. And so oftentimes I say to people, if you're sitting and you're thinking about your goals this year, you might want to think about some of the things that don't give you a lot of joy and don't make you happy, and how are they in conflict with your values. And that might be a great goal for you to tackle, because we have the power to make choices, and we have the power to change what we don't like about our lives. And so if there is something that you don't like, or something that doesn't bring you joy or creates a lot of discomfort for you in your life, that might be a key that there's a really perfect goal there waiting for you to tackle this year in 2021. So just remember that, your goals and the why and how motivating this is going to be really needs to be tied to your values, because otherwise a lot of things are going to happen. More than likely, you won't reach the goal, which would probably be a good thing in that regard, because if you don't value it, why are you trying to attain it? But you want to make sure that the energy that you're putting forth and the motivation that you need is going to be funneled in the right direction. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever read the book Smarter, Faster, Better by Charles Duhigg. But he says that the best way to keep ourselves motivated is to take control of our choices and to see them as affirmations of our values. And we need to be able to connect our small tasks to our larger aspirations. And so that's great advice by Charles, and he's right. So understanding why is really understanding what you value in your life. Okay, so just remember to keep that in the forefront as you work that through. And if you're sitting here and you're saying to yourself, you know what, I'm not really sure I know what I value, just send me an email. I will send you a little values exercise. It's actually not little, it'll take you a little while. But if you're not sure or you're not clear about something and you want to know what you really value, I have an exercise that you can do that I can send to you that will help you hone in on what your top 3 values are in your life. And works every time, works like a charm. So just let me know and I'll be happy to send that along to you. Okay, so our next is I, and that is identifying the steps or creating our plan of action. And here is where we get to basically identify what practical and concrete steps we are going to take to achieve the goal and to make it a reality. Now, it's not just enough to want the goal, right? Everybody, we all have these goals that in our mind we want, and that's great. But if we don't have a clear plan, then we're not really going to know how to get to the destination that we're trying to get to. So this plan is going to be your roadmap, and it's going to lead you down the path so that you can end up having success, right? So the steps are things like, what are the steps that you're going to take over the next days, weeks, or months? And this is where identifying these steps each month and each year are really, really important. So let's go back to the Boston Marathon example that I used before, right? If we think about the Boston Marathon example, what are you going to do? How much time are you going to devote to running every single day? Do you need to invest in any kind of equipment or supplies in order to bring this goal to fruition? How much are you willing to spend? How much money are you willing to spend? How much time are you willing to spend to reach this goal? Is there anybody that you can think of that you might need to ask for help? Maybe you want to hire a running coach to help you. They actually really exist. There are coaches that basically work with people so that they can run the Boston Marathon. Are you willing to pay for that kind of coaching? Will you take a class, or will you do some sort of research in order to make your goals successful? Will you have an accountability partner? And if you do, who will that person be? So you want to get really, really clear about the steps that you're going to take so that you know where you're going. And so anyways, that is what you're going to want to do under I, which is identify the steps. Our next is E, and this is a big one. This is about energy killers, okay? And energy killers are obstacles. They are roadblocks. They are all the things that kill your motivation. They are all the things that sap you of your energy. And let's face it, okay, we are going to be faced with roadblocks. We're going to be faced with roadblocks just because of the current set of conditions that we're living in with COVID-19 and with lockdowns and restrictions and all sorts of other things. But we're also faced with other types of obstacles and roadblocks, typically when we move on the path of reaching goals. And it's inevitable. It could be sooner, it might be later, but there will be a roadblock that ends up standing in your way and that could possibly derail your progress, right? Because distractions typically get us off track, setbacks make us feel like throwing in the towel, and these are all energy killers. And so, how are you going to handle them? How are you going to handle them? If you are not prepared, you might just throw in the towel. And so the example that I want to talk about here, because I mean, most of us, all not most of us, but there's a lot of us out there that always have this goal in as a new year approaches, and that's always to lose weight, right? To go on a diet, or to get fit, or to have better health. There's always something in there around that for most of us, right? But the one thing I know, having had this goal myself for many years, is that preparation and preparing and understanding what the roadblocks and obstacles are in this area is the number one thing you can do to help you make sure that you actually reach those health goals or those diet goals that you have, losing weight, whatever that you have. And I learned this because I ended up using a health coach all of last year, and I'm using a health coach again this year. And I learned that these tools are so important if you're going to tackle something like your health or weight. And so sitting down and thinking about what makes you overeat, things like what happens when you have people in the house that maybe can eat chocolate and not gain weight, but you can't. What happens when you don't have the right foods in the house? What happens when you go out to eat? Most of us, when we think about losing weight, we never stop and think about all those different factors that come into play when we're trying to lose weight. We just say, I want to lose 20 pounds. And then we go on our little merry way and we think, well, maybe if I cut potato chips out, or if I walk another 5 miles a week, that somehow I'm going to lose this 20 pounds. But it typically doesn't happen for most of us. And it's because we don't think about all these different aspects within that are obstacles to our progress. We don't think about what is the plan. How am I going to handle going to a party? How am I going to handle going out to dinner? What am I going to do when my husband brings home a gallon of my favorite ice cream? We don't think about how to handle that, and then we just go off the deep end and we revert back to old ways and old behaviors. And then the next year rolls around and we're sitting there looking at the same goal to lose 20 pounds. Right. And I know that a lot of you are probably going, yep, that's me. That's me. And I get it. I get it. So by sitting down and getting prepared and thinking about how you're going to handle these obstacles, okay, and then resolving to not let them prevent you from getting what you want, is one of the best tools and ways that you can ensure that you don't get sidetracked and fall off the wagon and go in a different direction away from the goal that you're trying to achieve. Because here's the thing, setbacks are a lot easier to bounce back from if you've already mentally prepared yourself for them. So if you've prepared, and if you've prepared, it makes it easier, right? You don't need to think of every possible thing that could go wrong, okay? But create a plan based upon the things that you know are possibly going to be standing in your way. And this way, then you'll be prepared. And you know, one of the tools that I have in my weight loss journey that I've been on is three things: meal planning, tracking, and weighing. And when I do those three things, I stay on track. And when I don't do those three things, I get off plan very, very easily. So that is how to handle the energy killers. Plan ahead and you'll be in a much, much better situation. So now we're at to V, which is value the plan. And value, what I want to say about this is, what's the point of all this work, thinking about your goals, coming up with the plan, coming up with your action items, thinking about what's going to derail you if you never take any action, right? And what happens for most of us is that we get stuck. We fail to act because we get stuck in the planning loop. We're constantly planning. Implementation falls off because we just get stuck in that plan. I mean, how many times have you thought about something that you wanted to accomplish and just got stuck in that pattern and never took action, then just went back to planning? And you know, following through and taking action, right, is key here. And so if your plan is to go running, say first thing in the morning, then make sure you spend that first part of your morning running and working towards your goal. Don't let those things stand in the way that you would push that aside, okay? Take action, and take action every single day. Now, one of the things that I do on the plan that I'm going to show you, that you'll get when you get the recording, is I look at that. I leave that up and out all month. So what I do is I have my big overarching yearly goals, and then I have my monthly goals, and I break those monthly goals down into actionable steps. And I look at that all month long. I don't just write it down and then stick it in a drawer. That's not really valuing my plan if I do that, right? If I just write it down and stick it in a drawer, more than likely I'm not even going to think about it that often. So I keep my goal sheet on my desk. I look at it frequently. I kind of check it off as I'm going along. If I reach those objectives and those steps that I put out for myself, or I reach a piece of the goal, you know, I make sure that I know that, because I'm constantly looking at my plan. I'm constantly making sure that I'm staying on track. And that is one of the best ways to value your plan. Don't just, you know, write it out and then put it away. You know, put it someplace prominent so that you're always looking at it and you're reminding yourself of what's important. The next one is E, and that is enjoy the success. Now, I want to tell you that I was a big goal planner. I was a big goal person many, many years ago. I would have all these goals and I would tackle them and I would reach a goal, and then I was just on to the next goal, like not even thinking about it. And then there was a point in my life where I didn't set any goals. And that was during the years that I was a caretaker for my mother. I just didn't really have the energy for much of anything at that point in my life. And goals were pretty much secondary. My goal every day was to just make it through the day. That was my goal. So if I was able to make it through the day, that was a good day. And that was enough for me at that point in my life, because caregiving is, you know, extremely difficult. And if any of you are caregivers on this call, then, you know, I'm sure you know that that's true, because you're living it and you're breathing it every single day. So I didn't bother really making any goals. But when I got back, after my mother passed away, and I decided that I wanted to kind of reclaim my life because so much had been lost through my caregiving journey, that's when I really went back to what I had done in the past, but with one added step. And this was the added step: enjoying the success. Because when I was younger and I was just buzzing through goals and I was meeting my goals and I was reaching the things and achieving what I wanted, I never really reflected on what I had just accomplished. It was like, okay, that's great. Yeah, okay, next. I never really thought about kind of what it took in order to get from where I was to the goal that I had just achieved. And so I really encourage people. Love to skip this step, and I certainly skipped this step. But once you reach that goal, take the time to really look back at what you've accomplished and celebrate that success. You're really shortchanging yourself in the process if you skip this, because by learning how to celebrate what you've accomplished, you know, it keeps you motivated and it keeps you excited for the other goals that you're still working on, because you still have other things that you want to work on. Even if you set a plan and in 6 months you achieve all your yearly goals, well, you're probably going to sit down and you're probably going to figure out some other goals for the next half of the year. And by celebrating what you just accomplished for yourself, you're going to continue to feel enthusiastic. You're going to continue to feel excited for the next phase of your life and for the goals that you want to achieve next. And so I guess my question is, as we kind of close this out, actually, I want to say a couple of things before. I actually missed a couple of things that I wanted to say, but I'll say it in my wrap up. I guess the thing that I want to ask people is, how would it feel for you right now to be able to have a plan to achieve everything that you want to achieve? I really think about that, and think about what's important in your life. So there's 7 steps, right? We're going to ascertain what our goals are that we want to tackle. We're going to create objectives. We're going to figure out how motivating it is. We're going to identify the steps that we need to take. We're going to figure out what are our obstacles, what are the energy killers that we need to be aware of so that we don't step in some sort of mine and blow ourselves, to smithereens, right? We want to make sure that we know what's coming so that we know how to tackle it. We want to make sure we value the plan that we created, because why go through all this energy if we're not going to actually implement? And then last but not least, we want to make sure that we enjoy the success that we've had, that we've created for ourselves, because we know that it's going to help us to continue to create new goals and to feel really great about ourselves. And that is our plan. Now, I don't know if I'm going to unmute everybody. And if people have any questions, first I got to figure out how to do that. And Lisa, we got to get Lisa off unmute too. I'm going to unmute everybody. And then if anybody has a question, feel free to ask.
I have a question.
Yes, Lisa.
Okay, I'm going to start my video. So you mentioned that you had a survey that we could take. And I was wondering, when you looked at that survey, when you actually got the information back on what things are important to you, could it be that even this goal that you're setting for yourself is going to be difficult based on what similar to that woman who said her family was her most valuable, but then when she answered all the questions, maybe it was money, right? Or I don't know what data your survey would come up with, but is it ever so difficult because things are actually, you think that this is your goal, but that it really doesn't jive with your 3 top motivators? Do you know what I'm saying?
I think I understand the question. So I'm going to, let me answer it this way, and then you tell me if I'm hitting it for you. What I have found working with people, and even in my own life, is that let's use money's a great example, right? A lot of people would say they value money, right? They value, what money can give them or whatever. Well, actually, let me go about it a different way. Okay. What I have found working with people in the past is that when people are unhappy, they are typically unhappy because they are living their life not based on what they value the most. So that's why I said, if you not sure, or you have this weird like, maybe I'm not really living a life based on what I value. Or here's the other thing, okay? Oftentimes as we get older, some of our values may change a little bit. I mean, what you value as a young person, or what you think you value as a young person, and then what you end up really valuing because you have more life experience and you've had more time to really think about it, and you've made mistakes and you see the consequences of all of that. Oftentimes, sometimes taking this test or this assessment is really great. But I always say to people, if they're unhappy about some piece of their life, it's more than likely because they're doing something that goes against what they value. Like, this is one of the things I value. For example, is I love nature. I love being out in nature. I just love it. I love taking a walk every day. I love the birds. I love seeing the wild animals, all of that stuff. I never realized how unhappy I was living where I used to live until I moved here. I thought it was fine. Where I lived before was okay. It was fine. But it certainly didn't bring me any joy in comparison to what I feel living where I live now. And so maybe I always knew that, but I was living somewhere where I kind of felt like I had to live. My parents were close by. I didn't want to leave them. There was, choices that I made, but ultimately I wasn't living someplace that really brought me a lot of joy. And I never really realized that until I moved here, and was just in awe all the time. I look out my window and there's deer going by, and then, you're over here and there's, an owl in the tree. And then, it's glorious here. And at night you sit outside and you can see more stars than you ever imagined. That doesn't float everybody's boat, but it does float mine, And so if there is a point in your life, or a piece of your life that you're unhappy with, it's probably because you're doing something against what you really value. And we rationalize that. It's easy to rationalize that, and it's easy to justify choices that we make. But if you're unhappy, then you got to take a look at what is that, and is there a way for you to make a plan to change those things in your life, so that it brings you closer to feeling more joyful than you currently do. Does that answer it?
Great. Yeah, that's fabulous.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions? Susan?
Yes, go ahead, Susan.
Hi, it's so great to be with you guys finally.
No, hi, Susan.
Hey, I used to listen to I guess I'll call him a coach. He wrote a lot of books. You probably know Brian Tracy.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I remember from those days, and I do, of course, write a plan every year, but one of the things he said, which I feel I've done a total turnaround on, is do the things you hate first. The things you don't like to do or you hate to do, just do them first and get them over with so you can do the things you really love to do. But at my age, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with him at all.
Right.
I think when Brian Tracy wrote that, life was very different, because he wrote those, I think those books he wrote in the 80s, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've read a lot of them, so it's the only reason why I'm pretty sure Brian Tracy wrote those in the 80s. I would say, do the thing. If you have this goal, I'm going to say it a different way, right? I agree with you. Number one, do the things that you love, right? Why do things that you hate?
Exactly.
And my point about the goal issue is, if you are doing things that you hate, craft a plan to move away from that, so that you can do things that you love and that bring you joy, right? I mean, at our age, come on, we're all on a you know.
Hamster treadwheel.
Well, yeah, and we only get so many out. We only get so many years left, right? At our age, we're all, most of us here are probably 50s, 60s, or older. So, the clock's ticking. And do you want to do things you hate every day? Or do you want to do things you love every day? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going to pick the things I love over the things I hate. Number one.
So you want to be selective.
I do
with
want
your
to be selective.
time. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's also brings me back to, like, why create a goal? Why create a goal? Let's use the weight thing, right? I don't say in my mind anymore or on a piece of paper I want to lose weight. I say I want good health, because good health is more important to me than just what the number on the scale. I'm old enough to know, and have dieted enough in my life to know, that the number on the scale is really not that important. What is important is my overall health. That's what's
Yep.
really important. So I'm going to do things to make my overall health better. And I'm going to do that first thing in the morning. I'm going to I'm going to get up and I'm going to go for a walk. And I'm going to walk for an hour, and then I'm going to come home and maybe lift some weights, right? I'm going to do those things, and I'm going to do them first. I'm not going to wait until half the day is over. I would say that if you have a plan, try to focus the beginning part of your day in the steps that you're trying to take to achieve your goal. Because when you do that, you're setting yourself up to feel really good about your day, right? If I get up every day and I go for a walk, and then I maybe do some weightlifting, and I plan out my meals so I know what I'm eating. Well, I feel successful, right? I already have success under my belt, and it's, barely 9 o'clock. If I wait and I put all of those things off, what happens at the end of the day? At the end of the day, I feel bad about myself, right? And I start the self-talk, the negative self-talk. Oh gosh, I can't believe it. You were so lazy. You didn't go for a walk today, or whatever, right? We don't need that, right? So better off start it at the beginning of your day, put the energy and the focus at the beginning of the day in reaching the goals that you have for yourself. And then you have something to feel good about yourself all day long. Like, wow, I did a really good job. And I'm a firm believer too. And I didn't talk about this necessarily in the plan, but I'm also a firm believer, at the end of the day, it's always nice to reflect and say, what are the 3 great things about today? What were 3 things that were really awesome about today? Well, I met my goals. I focused on my plan. I had a surprise visit with a friend, whatever it is, whatever in your life that you can turn around and you can feel grateful for, give yourself a pat on the back for, whatever that is. To me, that's a better setup for your day than to do something you hate first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I
I didn't like what, at the time there was a series at the fitness center where everybody got together and watched a videotape of Brian Tracy telling you what you needed to be doing over like a 6 or 10 week period. I don't remember, since it was the 80s. I just remember how awful it made me feel that I had to do all these things I hated in order to be allowed to do the things I love. And I just kind of wanted your take on that. You really broke it down so nicely. Great information. It's about happiness, like you like to say. So
it is about
that's a great barometer.
Yeah, I mean, my whole goal with the website that I have, is really about, and it's geared obviously towards post caregivers, people who, have lost so much in the caregiving journey, but really anybody could go there and read articles and they would still walk away with the same thing. If you're unhappy and you've lost your happiness along the way through whatever, could be from caregiving, it could be from a divorce, it could be from a relationship with your family going sour, it could be from a variety of different things, right? There is a way to reclaim that happiness that you want for yourself. You just have to have a plan, so.
I thought one of the things that you were mentioning, I was thinking about even trying to reach your goal. Sometimes you get burned out right? You're, for me, it's always success, right? Am I successful in helping families? And sometimes I just feel like, "Phew, I'm so tired, right? As hard as I work, like you have to kind of put it in perspective and say, I need to like recharge my battery so I can keep going, because sometimes the journey we're on, whatever it is, right? Getting healthy, trying to do the marathon, having a career, taking care of family, saving money, right? Sometimes you need to just like kind of pause and say, okay, I need to just stop for a bit, pause, reset, and keep going. But also, again, look back and say, how much have I achieved in this quarter, or like this 13-week plan, or whatever it is, right? And then like get the energy to keep going, because it's almost a mindset, right? That marathon runner who's running in the marathon, something takes over, because you can't just run that far without like, it has to be, your head has to be screwed on, and you got to be in the game, right? And not only it has to be a goal that you set a long time ago, but everything has to line up. But somehow along in that journey, you get this second wind, right? You get that push over the finish line, because it's huge. It's a marathon. The 365 days of the year trying to achieve this goal, or bits and pieces of it, right, is a marathon. And you need that recharge, somehow reset, pause, yeah. So I think that kind of struck me as something that I'm going to have to think about, is taking that either day off or a couple days off to just kind of do nothing, and look at the goals and see if where I am, so that you don't burn out with just that plan, whatever that plan is.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's about thinking about doing something that brings you joy, because doing something that brings you joy is going to recharge your batteries. If you just work all the time
But
and
if
you
that
never,
work is joyful, but the problem is it's endless. Like sometimes you just go, whew, or even, financially trying to save money, right? Or, if you're building a house or you're redecorating a room, sometimes you just need to like kind of step back and say, okay, my goal was to declutter, but I got to stop decluttering, because I need to just enjoy my little success here of decluttering the garage, or financial success, or whatever it is. You need to
right,
kind of step back
and
so,
celebrate.
yeah,
Don't forget,
celebrate that.
celebrate what you have accomplished, right?
Right,
Right.
right.
Instead of just going off to the next thing, maybe taking the time to celebrate that is what's missing. You know, could
Yeah,
be part of the piece of the plan that's missing, is the celebratory part of it.
right.
So,
So in wrapping this up, Maureen, what would you like us to take away from this
um,
presentation you've done?
well, I mean, I think ultimately what I hope that people take away from this is an opportunity to reflect on what's happened in the last year, an opportunity to figure out what they want 2021 to look like, to think about how to make your life as joyful as you possibly can. And in the pandemic, it's hard, right? We've lost so many things, and we've had TLC come on several times and talk about losses and different things, and they've been awesome. And if you didn't see some of those presentations, you can find those presentations on our website. There's lots of useful tools that they have provided to help us, kind of overcome those losses and to understand what those losses are about. But we don't have to sit by passively, right? We can still take control of our life, even with the pandemic and with everything that's going on. We still have the power to take control over our life, because we can dictate our daily actions and what those are. And so, hopefully these tools that I provided for you today are going to help you to frame up 2021 in a way that brings you as much joy and helps you reach whatever the goal is, or goals that you have, in the easiest way possible.
So if people want to get in touch with you, Maureen, and just kind of brainstorm, get the survey that you have, how would they go about getting in touch with you?
Let me see if I have, I think I have a screen with here it is, hold on. like I said, this is like trying to manage all right.
Yeah.
Oh, this is crazy. You could go to my website, which is Recovering Happiness, and there's a contact button there that you can just contact me, or you can just email me at maureen@recoveringhappiness.com. And like I said, if you want any of those, I'm going to send you the plan for your goals. But if you do want the value stuff, I'm happy to send that to anybody who wants it.
And when people are coming up with goals, you think that 3 is a manageable amount of goals for someone for a year. So whether it be health or finance or career, 3 is manageable. Don't come up with more than that, or is that about the right number that
Yeah,
people can kind of break down?
3 or 4 big overreaching goals is pretty much enough. Now, I don't, business is a little bit different. We don't do goal setting in the same way when you're running a business. So, like Lisa and I use a 12-week plan. We use a very different system for achieving what we want to achieve in the business. And I use a very different system for achieving what I want to achieve in my personal business. But for your overall life goals, yeah, I think 3 is plenty, really, when you think about it. When you have 3 overarching goals and then you're breaking these down every month, I think 3 is a manageable without being overwhelmed. And I think it helps to prevent you from setting yourself up for failure. If you put 10 goals on a worksheet. I remember I was friendly with this other blogger years ago, and I remember reading an article that she wrote, and she said, here's my goals for the year. And there was like so many goals on there. The first thing I thought of was like, okay, people reading this are going to be intimidated from like the get-go reading her goal list. She was obviously an overachiever. We don't have to be overachievers. We just need to reach goals at a level that's comfortable for us. But we don't have to be overachievers at this point in our lives, right? So I personally think 3 goals, maybe 4, is plenty. I think more than that, and you just, it becomes too much.
Yeah, I
Doesn't
can
mean
imagine.
yeah.
Yeah, it
Doesn't mean
becomes overwhelming, and that's all you're thinking about all the time. You got to live your life too. But
Yep.
even if it's just to exercise daily, wow, okay. And then in the end, you actually lost weight, right? And so, or even get healthy. Well, gee, you go to the dentist, and maybe you do your yearly exams, and maybe you go to the dermatologist. And so, sometimes under even that has so many pieces and components, right?
The other thing, you said something, and I just want to mention this really quickly. You said, walk every day or exercise every day. I encourage people not to write a goal like that, or write a plan, with steps that say every day, okay? Because nobody functions 100% of the time every day. It's just not possible, okay? You just don't feel good one day. You don't, it's raining out, so you can't go for your walk, whatever it is, right? So and the other thing is, if you're doing let's say health goal, right? And you want to start exercising and you haven't exercised in 30 years, don't set yourself up for walking every single day, right? Start with, I'm going to get out there 2 times a week. And then when you meet that, you up it. I'm going to aim for 3 times a week. And when you meet that, you up it. And nothing is set in stone, right? As you meet that objective, you just go on to the next objective. If your goal is to do some form of exercise every day, don't start out with that objective, right? Start out with something smaller and then build up to that. So maybe your overarching goal is that you want to exercise 7 days a week, because there's nothing wrong necessarily with that, okay? So say in the year you say, I want to exercise every day. Well, your first objective, so month 1, what are you going to do month 1? You're going to go out twice a week, right? That's where you start. Or you figure out what's manageable for you, what you can do and be successful. Don't set yourself up to do something 7 days a week, because the reality is nobody functions like that every day. Nobody functions at 100%.
Thanks for the good advice. Thank you.
Thanks. I have another final question, Maureen. I know it's probably time to go. I have numerous groups that some of them anyway, they went back to meeting in person, and I found out one in particular yesterday. They started back in November and now they're back doing Zoom only. And what you did is so inspiring today. Would you be willing to share it with some groups like Rotary clubs, for example?
Sure. Yeah,
The
absolutely.
same information, because I think business or not business, it's just great for everybody, especially right now.
Yeah. And it
And
helps
I
people just get control of their life, feel like they have more control with the
just give
plan.
them your email then, or?
Yeah, you can just give them my email. You have
Okay.
like, you probably have every email I have. So
Yes, I'm sure I do.
one.
You're hard to track. But
All
I
right, thank you
will.
yourself about
I'll
that.
let you know who I gave your contact information to, so that
Okay.
you'll know who they are when they contact you.
All righty. All righty. Well, if there are no other questions, I don't see anybody else unmuted. So I guess we're all set, Lise.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. We've learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to 2021. I am looking forward to seeing the survey too. I want to see what I think I believe, or what I think is me versus what really is me, right? So I think that's sometimes good to reflect back on who am I, and what are my goals, and how does this fit into the framework of even my own expectations or assessment of myself. So again, thanks for sharing all your gifts with us. We look forward to maybe hearing more from you in 2021. You've shared a lot with us, so thank you. And
Oh,
thanks
you're
everybody for getting on this call. Again, if you want to share it with friends and family, it's on my website. It'll be there in a couple days. The link, you could send it off to people. So interesting, and hopefully we'll be achieving our goals in 2021. We'll get back to you. Maybe we could do a recap and see what our goals
Oh,
were
yeah.
and how we achieved them, and what our
Yeah.
obstacles were along the way, right? We
Yeah.
can be our each other's cheerleader along the way.
Yeah.
All right.
Do a little goal support group.
Totally, right? Zoom support group. All right. Heavy lifting. All right, everybody.
Okay.
Stay safe. Be well.
Goodbye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye. Have a
Bye.
great day.
You too.